This is CBN NewsWatch.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm George Thomas. We move overseas right at the top of our show. Tensions rise in Hong Kong as pro-democracy protesters shut down the Hong Kong airport. It happened at East Asia's third busiest airport. 200 flights were cancelled Sunday. Authorities say the airport will reopen tomorrow, but cancelled flights there have cost the airlines, businessmen and tourists valuable time and money. Just how long will the Chinese government tolerate protester disruptions in Hong Kong? Our chief international correspondent, Gary Lane, is following this story. So, Gary, just how serious is this latest disruption in Hong Kong?
Extremely serious. It's getting to a dangerous point now because Beijing is losing patience with these pro-democracy demonstrators or protesters. George, as you know, and you've been to this airport, it's one of the busiest in the world, if not East Asia. About 74 million people go through that airport every year, about 1,100 flights between cargo and passenger airlines each day. And it contributes, believe it or not, about $15 billion to the Hong Kong GDP each year. And so it's a very important part of Hong Kong. They shut it down. And that costs perhaps eventually tens of millions of dollars.
So to that very point, why did the pro-democracy demonstrators take their protests to the airport, knowing just the facts you just laid out?
Well, because just what I laid out, they know that it is a very important part of Hong Kong. It's important to mainland China. They want to get attention. And what better way than to shut down the airport? But what's happening, George, is people are saying, well, we're not going to fly through Hong Kong now because we don't want our flights canceled or delayed. So they're seeking out Beijing, Tokyo, Seoul, other places in the region, other airports for traveling, especially business travelers. So that could cost a lot of money to the mainland as well, not just Hong Kong.
Gary, just how dangerous are these demonstrations now becoming for the protesters, but also for this island in the middle of Asia?
Well, dangerous because Beijing has labeled these demonstrators as terrorists. They also say, look, they're an existential threat to Hong Kong, and the Hong Kong government needs to be resolute in addressing violence and these protesters. It's been going on now, George, for over 2 months. It started June 9th, and Beijing's patience, like I said, wearing thin, so we'll see what happens here.
I'm curious, why do the pro-democracy protesters what do they want, and why isn't Beijing budging at this moment?
Well, number one, they want to see Carrie Lam, the chief executive of Hong Kong, resign. They want her gone. Also gone, they want this extradition law that says that they can take people from Hong Kong, send them back to the mainland of China for trial, extradition. And they don't want to see that happen. Also, they want an investigation of strong-arm police tactics against the demonstrators, George.
Okay, we will have to leave it there, Gary. We know that you and our Asia correspondent, Lucille Toulousan, are staying on top of this for us. Thank you. I appreciate it. Okay, American lawmakers are in Israel to show support for the Jewish state. But a few Democrat freshmen from the House decided not to go. The Squad, as they're called, have been vocal critics of the Holy Land. As one U.S. leader told CBN News, the trips are vital to helping U.S. legislators understand the challenges Israel faces.
Those notably missing from the delegation were Congresswomen Rashida Tlaib, Ayanna Presley, Ilhan Omar, and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, otherwise known as the Squad. All have been outspoken against Israel. Tlaib recently took to the House floor and compared a boycott on Israel to a boycott on Nazi Germany.
So I can't stand by and watch this attack on our freedom of speech and the right to boycott the racist policies of the government and the state of Israel. Americans boycotted Nazi Germany in response to dehumanization, imprisonment, and genocide of Jewish people.
Because of recent comments by Tlaib and Omar, it appears the U.S. State Department revised its definition of anti-Semitism that now includes drawing comparisons of contemporary Israeli policy to that of the Nazis. House Majority Leader Steny Hoyer and Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy led the 41 Democratic and 31 Republican freshman representatives. They agreed if the Squad came with an open mind, they'd learn more about Israel.
If they do that, I think they will have a better understanding and better support for the interests of both the Israelis and the Palestinian people.
Anyone that comes with open ears, open eyes, and an open mind will walk away and have an understanding, just as all these members do, that this bond is unbreakable.
Despite their differences, the two leaders agree that on the whole, the two parties stand together on their support for Israel and the need to understand the challenges faced by the Jewish state.
72 members of Congress united in strong and unwavering support for the state of Israel, its success, its sovereignty, and its security.
CBN News sat down for an exclusive one-on-one with Minority Leader McCarthy. Several years ago, he started bringing Democratic and Republican members together in Israel.
I wanted to have some overlapping because I don't want the debate about Israel to be partisan. And it seems so many times what's happening, especially in this new Democratic Party, it's becoming divided within the own Democratic Party. And so that's why this is a very good time that we come together, because we have no greater ally, no stronger bond than America with Israel. But unfortunately, this new Democratic Party has been making that a real challenge.
Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Chris, one other item from the region. Palestinian violence erupted at a major holy site in Jerusalem Sunday, known by Jews as the Temple Mount and Muslims as the Al-Aqsa Mosque. The clashes came as Muslim holiday and a Jewish fast day coincide. CBN Middle East correspondent Julie Stahl brings us that story from Jerusalem.
Tens of thousands of Muslim worshippers were on the Temple Mount when clashes broke out with Israeli security forces on the first day of Eid al-Adha. On Eid al-Adha, or the Feast of Sacrifice, Muslims celebrate Abraham's willingness to sacrifice Ishmael. They say God stopped him and provided a lamb instead. This lady blamed the police.
It was peaceful to start with. Everyone was sitting down, praising and glorifying for the Eid al-Adha when they attacked us like monsters.
But other reports said Muslims were angry because Jews were lining up outside hoping to enter the Temple Mount. This year, the first day of the Muslim feast coincided with the Jewish fast day of Tisha B'Av, the 9th of Av. According to Jewish tradition, 2 biblical temples on the site were destroyed on this day. Initially, the Jews were denied entry. Then about 1,700 were allowed to go up to the Temple Mount, the site of those former biblical temples. According to a status quo agreement between the Israeli government and Islamic authorities, only Muslims are allowed to pray on the Temple Mount. In addition, for years, some rabbis forbid Jews from visiting the site because of its holiness. Others have always advocated for the rebuilding of the temple, and during the last decade, there's been a wider Jewish movement demanding the right to pray there.
The situation on the Temple Mount can no more continue when Jews, the people of the Temple Mount, of the land of Jerusalem, cannot come and worship on the Temple Mount, cannot rebuild the third temple, as God called us to do.
The incident turned political when rivals accused Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of preventing Jews from going up to the Temple Mount. Netanyahu took to Twitter to defend himself. He said he already decided last week the Jews could go up to the Temple Mount.
The question was not if they could go up, but rather how to manage it in the best way possible to ensure public safety.
With Israeli elections just 5 weeks away, every incident becomes a political challenge to Netanyahu. Julie Stahl, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Coming up, what new immigration rules were revealed today and how they'll affect those who are seeking a home here in the U.S. And before we go to break, a look at what's trending on CBNNews.com.
Introducing the CBN Bible from CBN.com. Now, an easier way to study the Bible and grow in your faith. Highlight your favorite verse. Read separate versions at a glance. Click and read a commentary. Or cross-reference your favorite verse using the Strong's Concordance. All the right tools to study the Bible, all in one place. The CBN Bible, available at cbn.com/Bible or the iTunes App Store.
It has the power to influence weight loss, boost your immune system, and improve brain function.
We've seen an explosion of data on the role of the gut microbiome in health.
The free Build a Better Gut booklet reveals the latest information about the gut microbiome. You'll discover how your gut affects the rest of your health.
The gut microbiome has been linked to depression and cancer and heart disease.
Learn how to build a stronger, healthier gut.
The microbiome, if it's in good composition, are really protecting us all the time from more invasive things.
Get the Build a Better Gut booklet, free from the Christian Broadcasting Network. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com/buildabettergut.
You need to make sure that your microbes are working with you, not against you.
And if you order online, you'll get immediate access to the Build a Better Gut series, a digital copy of the booklet, and related bonus material. Build a Better Gut today. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com/buildabettergut for your free copy.
Here, we're committed to a heritage of rigorous scholarship dating back over 1,000 years.
And to a faith tradition dating back 1,000 more.
This is how we create a culture of inquiry where no topic is off limits.
And a culture of hope.
Anything's possible!
It's Christian leadership.
And it's changing the world for the better.
It's higher learning.
It's greater knowing.
It's what makes us whole.
It's what makes us Regent.
Get the top political news and analysis from Washington on Faith Nation, tonight at 6 Eastern, only on the CBN News Channel.
We will move the American embassy to the eternal capital of the Jewish people, Jerusalem.
As the nations rage, you can stand with Israel.
History is being written, and I want to be a part of it.
Call 1-800-700-7000 and get to life.
This is our nature as a country.
Discover the untold story of how Israeli volunteers are changing the world.
We consider it our duty to reach out and help others around the world.
For a gift of $10 or more, you can own the acclaimed CBN documentary To Life.
To treat a human, no matter what he is, which religious he has, which color he is. This is what I'm doing.
Support Israel in their time of need. Get to Life, now available on DVD. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to cbn.com.
And I wish that other people throughout the world could see this side of Israel.
Welcome back to the CBN News Channel. New immigration rules made public today by the Trump administration are being called some of the most restrictive to date. The current public charge law will be updated with a wider range of qualifications for legal immigrants seeking green cards. U.S. citizenship and immigration services officers will now weigh public assistance along with factors such as education, household income, and health to determine whether to grant legal status.
Through the public charge rule, President Trump's administration is reinforcing the ideals of self-sufficiency and personal responsibility, ensuring that immigrants are able to support themselves and become successful here in America. Our rule generally prevents aliens who are likely to become a public charge from coming to the United States or remaining here and getting a green card. Public charge is now defined in a way that ensures the law is meaningfully enforced and that those who are subject to it are self-sufficient.
The rules will take effect in mid-October. Joining us now is Mike Howell with the Heritage Foundation. Mike, great to have you back on the broadcast. So what's your sense about this new law? Is it going to make it harder to obtain a green card?
Oh, yes, absolutely. This is one of the biggest things this administration has done in the immigration policy area. It's been a priority for the last couple of years, and a lot of hard work and legal work went into formulating it. This is going to clarify an existing law from the INA that, Congress enacted and says that if you're likely to become a public charge, you're not eligible to be admitted. And this final rule spells out what exactly that means. It'll have enormous implications.
The president was very, very forceful, coming out with a statement saying that he did this to protect benefits for American citizens. Immigrants must be financially self-sufficient. This is quite a big, dramatic move by this White House, right?
Absolutely. This administration's agenda is to make sure that there is an immigration policy that serves the benefit of American citizens. And what this rule does is protects the very finite resources that this country has to make sure they're directed to Americans in need and that we are not, doling those out to non-citizens.
What's been the reaction from both sides of the aisle? What are they saying about the new requirements?
Well, this really hasn't picked up a ton of media attention as it's kind of worked through the process. It received a ton of comments through the regulatory process, but lawmakers and media really haven't focused in on the actual impact that this final rule will have. I expect over the coming days, once people start to wrap their heads around what it will do, you'll see a lot of more politicians and media outlets kind of speaking out about it. But those in the immigration space certainly are familiar and in the administration have been working on it.
Mike, I'm curious, do you think this will help the country's immigration system?
Oh, absolutely. One of the biggest magnets for immigration, illegal immigration specifically, is our economic system. Most of the folks coming across the border are economic migrants, despite what many in the media will try to say and that they're fleeing persecution or violence. Most come to America because they'll have a better chance at, making more money. And this rule will definitely turn off one of those magnets for people to come across, knowing that they can get, free benefits and services.
I know this is specifically targeting those who are seeking a green card, but does it affect the overall citizenship process?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It'll drastically reduce the number of people who are eligible, for citizenship. I think it remains to be seen what those numbers will look like. But if enforced fully, I think there'll be a drastic reduction in the folks who are eligible for citizenship.
Okay, Mike, thank you so much, as always, for coming on the show. Mike Howell, he is with the group out of D.C., the Heritage Foundation. Thanks for coming on the show, sir.
Thank you for having me.
You're most welcome. Up next, how the Army is planning to highlight the Tell Soldier Stories, where you'll soon be able to dive into its history.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com. Want to be a part of a community that inspires your spiritual growth while winning prizes? The all-new MyCBN app. Connect with the community for prayer and encouragement. Track and set spiritual goals. Enjoy conversation starters with friends and family. And collect points to win prizes. The all-new MyCBN app. A great place to belong. Download the app at cbn.com/mobile. Grow, connect, have fun. The all-new MyCBN app.
Watch breaking news, in-depth exclusive stories and programs, from health to entertainment, you won't find anywhere else. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. Enjoy credible news reporting from around the world. Discover inspiring programs and stories of hope, all in one place, from a Christian perspective. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. Check your local listings or visit cbnnewschannel.com.
Come home to the sounds of Southern Gospel from CBN Radio. You'll enjoy a rich Southern blend of bluegrass, classic gospel, and Southern gospel favorites like the Gaithers, the Crab Family, and bluegrass sounds like Mountain Faith. So make yourself at home with the all-new CBN Southern Gospel, now available at cbnradio.com.
Welcome back to the CBN News Channel. The 18-year war in Afghanistan may be coming to a close end as U.S. and Afghan diplomats negotiate for peace with the Taliban. But with rising violence and presidential elections there less than a month away, no one is certain what Afghanistan will look like by the end of the year. Chuck Holton traveled to Kabul to find out.
This Afghan street market in the capital city of Kabul is bustling after Friday prayers. But there's a tension in the air anytime large groups of people are found in one place. The threat of suicide bombers is at an all-time high and are now an almost daily occurrence. In late July, the city suffered 3 car bombs in one day. Abdul Muhammad was nearby for one of them.
یک زخمی در اینجا افتیده بود، یکی اون طرف. این دو تا موتر نمیفهم که موتر از کیا هستن، این را اطلاع ندارم.
Donald Trump says he's tired of hearing that the United States is losing the war in Afghanistan, and he says the American people feel the same way. And that's why the U.S. military has been having talks with our enemies, the Taliban, here in Afghanistan, to try to come up with a ceasefire. But even while they're doing that, the Taliban has been stepping up attacks around Kabul, like the one that happened right here in front of Kabul University in mid-July. That killed more than 10 people. But if we've learned anything from the precipitous pullout that happened in 2011 in Iraq, it's that if we pull out too soon or in the wrong way, it could have serious consequences for the United States in the future. Over 17,000 coalition troops are still in the country, but their role has changed dramatically from direct action to one that's more focused on advise and assist. This means Afghan troops are doing the lion's share of the fighting and dying as well. While the U.S. has lost 12 soldiers this year, the Afghans regularly suffer over 100 soldiers killed in action in an average week. Another contributing factor to the uptick in violence we're seeing across Afghanistan right now are the upcoming presidential elections at the end of September. Back in July, there was a massive complex attack at this building behind me, which were the offices of the president's running mate, Ashraf Ghani, the president of Afghanistan, the incumbent. And it just shows that the Taliban is flexing its muscles in advance of that upcoming election. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said in August that the solutions to Afghanistan's problems are diplomatic, not military, and that the U.S. is committed to working with the Afghan government to finally extricate our forces from the country.
President Trump has made very clear that his desire is that we develop a diplomatic resolution that permits us to reduce the resources that are located there in country while simultaneously ensuring that Afghanistan never again becomes a platform where a terror can strike the United States of America.
Despite the recent increases in violence, things have gotten better in Afghanistan since I started coming here, at least back in 2007, 2008. You can look at factors like the infant mortality rate, which has gone way down. Gross domestic product is 5 times what it used to be. And life expectancy, which was only 43 years, is now in the mid-60s. So things are getting better, but the concern is that if the U.S. leaves precipitously, it could cause a lot of those gains to be reversed. But for the shoppers in this Afghan market, the best future they can hope for right now is to simply make it home to their families for one more day. From Kabul, Afghanistan, I'm Chuck Holton for CBN News.
Thank you, Chuck. Even though the U.S. Army is the oldest branch of the U.S. military, it's the only service without its own national museum. In 2020, that is set to change. The future capstone of the Army is still under construction on a hill in Northern Virginia. And that is where we find our Gabe LaMonica for a preview.
When it opens, the steel fortress behind me is going to be the Army's first national museum. It's been a long time coming, but the Army took us inside for a sneak peek. The big reveal of the U.S. Army emblem on the lobby floor comes some 2 years after installing the final steel beam, and some 200 years after the 13th U.S. Congress authorized a national museum for the Army.
We are the last service to have its own national museum.
It took a lot of heavy lifting to move in everything from this Cobra King battle tank, the first in Bastogne 38-ton legend that broke the German lines during World War II's Battle of the Bulge, to this M3 Bradley fighting vehicle that led the charge in the 2003 invasion of Baghdad. All before suspending this Vietnam-era UH-1 Huey from the ceiling and bringing in hundreds of artifacts in between. Now, the oldest branch of the U.S. military is rolling along and into a 185,000 square foot glass and steel citadel above 84 acres some 20 miles south of the nation's capital.
It represents a beacon, again, the strength of the Army, the safety of the Army, and that's how we protect our citizens as well.
Tammy Call is the museum director.
We tell the Army's story, the comprehensive story, through the eyes and voices of our individual soldiers.
One of those voices belonging to the late Melvin Nestaby, who survived the Bataan Death March during World War II.
I will always be a soldier.
Hundreds of American soldiers died when the Japanese Army beat and tortured prisoners of war during a forced march of more than 60 miles.
A well of water
springing up into everlasting life.
Nestabe's New Testament Pocket Bible is just one of over 7.4 million copies issued to American GIs during World War II.
Lack of water or starving, this helped them through that time.
And this good book carried Nestabe past the perils of murder and disease over the course of 4 POW camps in 3.5 years.
He carried that with him throughout the duration of the war.
Paul Mirando is the chief of exhibits.
He gave his life, his service to the United States Army, and his story, along with this Bible, needs to be told.
The museum will cover the history of the Army from the Revolutionary War to the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. The Army says that after over 240 years, this testament to its service and its soldiers is long overdue. Gabe LaMonica, CBN News, Fort Belvoir, Virginia.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
On October 1st, 1961, history was made when a tiny station began transmitting the first signals of the Christian Broadcasting Network.
CBN, the Christian Broadcasting Network.
And now, a new era has begun with the all-new CBN News Channel.
Just moments ago, the Iron Dome intercepted an incoming rocket right on the Gaza border.
Administering in this area, spiritual warfare is definitely involved.
A 24/7 news network, bringing you the news you want from a source you can trust.
In Kenya, 40% of the medical services are actually provided by these Christian hospitals.
Let's talk about the economy.
Believers here are joining together to win people to Jesus Christ.
All your favorite shows now in one place. Go to CBNNewsChannel.com to find out how to get the CBN News Channel on your TV all day, every day. CBN News.
It was an amazing night to remember and a first in women's gymnastics. Simone Biles stuck a perfect landing after a triple-double in her floor routine Sunday night in the U.S. Women's Gymnastics Championship, making her the first woman in history to land the move during competition. This is the 6th championship win for Biles, who now moves on to the World Championships. Biles has credited God for her success, giving him all the glory, saying, quote, "I was taught that you can go to him for anything, and he's the one that directs your life." And she says she will continue to give all she has to